reading your Bible.
I already know that. I heard that my whole life. I conflated Islam with black identity.
That is why the gospel of Jesus is so profound.
I'm isolated, working in a warehouse. Why should we live the right way? We can be forgiven anyway. What are we supposed to do? I didn't want to know. No time to read my Bible. There's no time to pray.
This is deep. I feel like this is a therapy session.
So you're telling me two different things that don't really line up. Curiosity for Jesus away has you just not mentioned him at all. Your energy shifted a lot when it comes to coffee, though, because you used to only like the sugary sweets.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I matured in my coffee taste.
And then but then we would go to like actual coffee shops. And
this
then
is
you
the
would be
switch.
like, I don't like that. And I'm like, that tastes real. It's like
I remember my first cappuccino I got, and I drunk it, and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever tasted in my life. Now, looking back on it, that was really good coffee. What was I thinking?
Like wine, too. You
right.
know, you have to have it because you used to like really sweet
wines. It's like the maturity. A dry is great.
Bitter stuff, yeah.
It's all evolving. And speaking of evolving, welcome back to the Graves House Pod, y'all. We are back. And I'm actually very excited for this episode. Yeah. It's something that we knew was going to be in season 1 because it is a story that I feel the masses need to hear. The people need to hear.
And a story that I feel like I've told on different
and in
platforms
pieces.
And in pieces and stuff. But yeah, never just had like a whole hour to myself. I'm that hype. And you're nervous because I have an hour to myself. It's like,
I am nervous because this can go a lot of places.
We had to, before the show, we had to do little cues. Like, all right, if I go over, like, play with your glasses. And then
y'all might see me just tinkering.
I'm going to ignore it.
No,
and keep going with my train of thought.
Our thing. Like, I'm very, where are we going? Let's get to where we're going. And you are very, let's smell the flowers and the roses along the way. And I think there is balance.
Did you feel that on the meeting that we had? I felt it on the meeting that we had this week, too. We had a meeting with...
Sometimes you are flowery. And sometimes...
Well, I was like, all right, I'll talk to you about this once Maya gets off this call. Because she doesn't care about this part.
Because I also hear it a lot. You know what I mean? So, like...
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
That's true.
I be getting briefed every day.
That's true.
Your talk.
That's how I feel. No, I can't say that. That's how I feel about the vlog sometimes. When you be like, did you watch the vlog? And it's like, I was there. And I was like, I was there. Literally there. I saw the whole thing, you know? So I didn't watch it. I'm sorry. But I do understand, though, that it's still an art form.
Oh, it is, for sure. And so respect my art.
Yeah, and all of that. I get it. I do.
But today we are talking about something that actually a lot of people don't know about you. A season that you went through where you were genuinely just searching. And I think we all go through that. When we are genuinely searching, we sometimes end up in places that lead us to the truth. Okay? And you were just searching and you were on your journey. And I want you to just talk about your journey of actually converting to Islam for a couple of years, being a Muslim and what that experience was like. And then ultimately, full circle, how you got brought back to Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. So to set up this conversation, I think our viewers need to know, what was your context of Christianity growing up? What was your view of God? And we'll stop there because I don't want you to get
you got us
overwhelmed with
the more layers to the question, the longer the winded of the answer. So to break it up in a piecemeal, but context. I grew up in a very religious household. Well, I would say this. There's two sides of my family, right? My mom's side and my dad's side. My mom's side, my mom had me very young, and so I grew up in my grandma's house, bouncing between houses and stuff. But one of the houses I lived in was my grandma's house, and very religious. We went to church it felt like 5 times a day, you know? Realistically, it was probably like 2.
What denomination was it?
Sometimes 3. I don't know. Baptist, Pentecostal.
They was running around.
Pentecostal, we ran around a lot. I used to get my calories. I used to burn mad calories at church. That was my favorite part about church, is when the spirit was felt and then people take off.
And you were taking off with them.
I would be running literally around.
Did you feel the spirit, or you was just running?
In circles. I mean, I might have felt the spirit. I felt something. I definitely felt something. I felt something, but I would be running around there sweating.
No, I
getting
can't
my
because I see
sprinting.
Ezra.
Well, you gotta think, right? And you see how
I
hyper
see
he is,
Ezra.
and you think I'm sitting there. I'm 3, 4 years old. Gotta sit still and be quiet for an hour and a half.
So you hear that organ and you
I'm
just
ready
start.
to run. Yeah, so I was running around, but I remember one time, going to church, and I don't know what this was. This was like a 24-hour service or something, a revival or something. Because I remember we went there. It was late.
That's some seasoned saints.
There all day. Fell asleep. Woke up. It was the next morning. I'm still at church, and then we did breakfast in the basement, and it was like probably chicken because we was always having fried chicken and stuff. So it was definitely because it was a small town.
Had a real church.
Yeah, small town, Mansfield, Ohio. So yeah, that was my experience, and then I would go to my dad's side of the family, which was either my grandma Lena's or my granny's house. My grandma Lena's house always had a lot of different people in there, and so that side was definitely a lot more rowdy, and so that's where I experienced not church. To put it lightly, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely a lot more the other side. So I feel like I had a good balance of.
At that age, did you realize like this part of my family goes to church and they act a certain way? This part of my family doesn't. And did you see like the differences that God can bring in people's lives, or was it kind of just like?
No, I would say
like how did church convert to people's lives? Like what was the connotation you had of like God and how people show up in the world?
I think that for me, I didn't see a lot of fruit from my Christian side of the family to a degree. I mean, I don't know if I seen fruit on either side, but we came from a small town, so it wasn't a lot of money, and the money that was made was from the streets. So so if I'm equating fruit to financial prosperity or success, I didn't see a lot of success from my Christian side of family in that degree. I didn't see a lot of fulfilled people in there, or dreams being fulfilled, or businesses being built.
What about more so their character?
In my experience, the cousins I did have, that at least from the character and the way that they carried themselves was a lot more admirable in terms of discipline and their principles. They were Muslim.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you think that's when that seed was planted? Or did you even make that connection?
I don't think that the seed of anything was planted in I don't know really. I don't really know when the seed was planted of Islam and stuff, because I didn't really think about it like that. They were still my cousins, and
right,
and like, we was having theological debates and like that at 8 years old. I want to talk about basketball and the music and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So no.
So you were actually a goody two shoes in high school, which I've heard many stories about. And I think in college is when there was like a lot of turning points in your life. So just walk us through like early adulthood, and I guess like when the transition of like, did you ever have a time where you were just like, I'm not Christian, I'm just kind of figuring it out, or before you went to Islam, or were you always like, no, I'm a Christian, like I'm rocking with Jesus, or did you even understand what Christianity meant?
I think that I mean the seed was planted. Everybody knew the type of family that I came from, so I moved around a lot. I mean, you know that, you know what I mean. I moved a lot when I was younger, and I was an only child. So, when my parents got back together, and we finally settled in together, my life was sports. So me being a goody two shoes, I wouldn't even consider myself a goody two shoes. I just didn't drink or smoke. You know what I'm saying? In high school. And that was just because I played sports. Basketball was, I will say this. I remember one time in middle school, I went through a phase where I was cussing a lot. I don't know if I had just learned how to cuss good or what. This is like sixth grade. I remember specifically sixth grade. I remember I used to cuss a lot.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just around a lot of cussers and stuff. I remember I came home. I went to Mansfield because I would go to Mansfield in the summers. And I remember I went to my cousin's house, my cousin Tonio, And Tonio, I looked up to my cousin Tonio. You know what I mean? Like he was a amazing basketball player, played pro for a little bit. Like that's a whole we'll probably end up going more down that hole in a second. But Tonio, I looked up to him. But anyway, I remember being at my grandma Lena's house, and I brought it back home with me. So I'm cussing.
You were cussing.
And he was older. My cousin Tonio was older. He was in high school. I'm in middle school. And I remember him just being like, and I don't know if I was trying to fit in with him and his friend. I don't know what it was, but he was just like, man, you bad. And I'm like,
and
what?
Now you feel shame.
And he was like, yeah, you bad, man, because you cuss a lot. And I remember just feeling horrible. So I remember that next year or two, I remember I stopped cussing completely just because I'm like, I don't like that stigma on me. Like I've never been bad. That has never been like the that is true. You say that a lot. Within my family was that I was the bad one. I was never like that, So I didn't like that. So that part of me, and I mean, that's a testament, I guess, to how I was raised and my mom and my dad and all of that. But I never wanted to be considered bad. I still made mistakes and stuff, but I always felt bad about them, and I didn't want to continue to make bad decisions like that. So I don't even know if that answers the question. Because you had something. Words came out and then
No, I think that's good. It gives us a good setup for just where you were as a child, and I guess how that transfers into early adulthood. So let's get into Islam. Where were you at when you were just like, this is a thing that I'm interested in? What was appealing about Islam?
So, well, So I think what happened for me was I went to OU, went to Ohio University, right? And it's a party school, known to be a party school. So I get there and I go when a whole high school never drank or smoked.
Yeah.
So now I graduated from high school. I don't play sports anymore. So I think I'm in a season of my life where I'm trying to find identity now. Who am I outside of basketball? Because my whole life was built around I want to play in the NBA, and these are the decisions that I make to get there.
That's interesting.
If I don't have that, I don't have a vision, or I don't have a purpose for not drinking or smoking, then why not type of thing, I think. And I don't play sports, so it really doesn't affect anything, so why not? So I think that might have been a piece of it. It was a sense of freedom, I guess, that I felt in that.
Freedom, quote unquote.
Yeah, right.
Because it always looked like freedom till can't get free.
Right, for sure.
Shackled.
And I think so, so I go to OU and I'm kicking it. And now I'm into music. This is when I started getting into my music era. And so I smoke weed and I'm hearing music and I'm like, okay, this is what I want to be. I want to be a rapper. And this is what rappers are supposed to do. They're supposed to live like this and talk about stuff like this. And this is their lifestyle. So this is what I need to also follow too. This is also Drake, Kanye. This is so I'm seeing that also I can be a rapper and not really have to be like a street dude. But I still have these desires that I'm, exploring and all of that. And so I think that was a big part of my early identity in my early 20s.
I think it's interesting though, is even in high school, it was basketball, and then college, it was music. So it was those were the things that determined how you showed up in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in college, you're trying to be a musician. You think that musicians have to live this lifestyle. What then leads you to the complete opposite lifestyle, which is the lifestyle of a Muslim? How do we get from all the way left to all the way right? What happens?
So I used to, and I mentioned this on the last podcast too, but I would feel bad about, and if you listen to my music, you would hear that in it. I got a song called Inner Conflict I wrote when I was 19 or 20, where I'm talking about this stuff. So this has always been a common theme in my life was I know what I'm supposed to do. I know that God is real. I know there are consequences.
So that was never a question. Is God real?
This is always a thing for me. I know there are consequences for my actions, but they're so tempting and alluring that it's hard for me to ignore them or not at least go see what it's like on that side. And then when I get old, I'm gonna get it together. I think that has always been my thing. And because you hear grace and God will forgive you, I would just, Lord, forgive me. Lord, forgive me. And then, go mess up again. That was that was like a theme for me. So I would navigate the two. Now, I didn't feel good when I was doing that stuff, though. And that stuff would kind of eat at me, too, And so there was always a sadness within me as well, knowing that that's not right and knowing that I'm grieving my
conviction.
Dad in heaven, you know what I'm saying? And that part was tough. So every summer, I remember one summer I come home from college and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm getting my life together and I need discipline. Because me just going to church with my mom on Sunday wasn't enough because I never felt anything that there was nothing to practice Monday through Saturday. I just needed to go to church on Sunday. And so I always still felt these desires.
Do you feel like you were a cultural Christian then? It was kind of just like a thing that you just go to church.
100%. Yeah, I didn't have that.
Were you reading your Bible?
Spiritual. I was, though. That's the thing. Yeah, I was. Now, I think that I would, in my youth, I would skip over parts that made me feel bad.
Cherry picking.
Yeah, for sure. Because I wasn't ready for that yet. I wasn't ready. And I would pray. That would be an honest prayer of mine, too, is that I'm not ready to commit to you yet.
Wow. I mean, that's real.
Yeah. Like I'm not ready. I really want to know what it's like out there first before I come home. You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I felt. And then I feel like, and I think in a way too, I kind of admire, that's why I admire about you and a lot of people where they have this really big thing that happened where I was visited in my dream and the Lord grabbed me by my hand and pulled me out of my da-da-da-da and all of that stuff. Cause I'm like, wow, I don't have that experience. I don't have that major life altering moment where I was this. And I guess, I mean, mine was more gradual, slow burn. Yeah. But it wasn't just a switch for me because I grew up in the church. So everything I had heard, I was kind of callous to. I already know that stuff. I heard that my whole life. You know what I'm saying? So,
but isn't it crazy how you can read the same scriptures over again and have a completely different outlook on them? Like, I'm sure you read those same scriptures growing up, but to now read them through the lens of the Holy Spirit guiding you and getting a whole new revelation from it. I think that's what's dope about your testimony is it was in front of you, but you were still blind. He gave you new eyes to see, but we'll get into that. So going into Islam, was there anyone in particular that was hey, I think you should look into this? Were you more so how did you even find Islam? I know that you said that your cousin was practicing, but was it things you were seeing on the internet? What was drawing you to it?
Yeah, so no, it wasn't anything on the internet. It was always, it was relatives. Again, I had cousins who were Muslims that I looked up to. My cousin Terry, who passed away, but he was somebody that I also, that just kind of took me under his wing, and mentored me to some degree, and so we would go to Million Man March, right? Bunch of Muslims. And to me, I think too, I conflated Islam with Black identity.
Because that's the whole topic.
And so a part of me also wanted to embrace my African American culture more, and it don't get no more cultural than being a Muslim. That's how I felt at the time, right? And I guess in a way, juxtaposed, the
Christianity
felt very not African American. It felt very white to me. You know what I'm saying? Or yeah, and so also just not really understanding to the history all the way either. You know what I mean? And so that's also a big part that play. Again, now we're thinking me, rapper, hip hop.
A lot of people be Muslim.
Black, you know what I'm saying? All of that. So now, it's fitting that Islam would now kind of fit in there as well, type of thing, So I think all of that kind of culminated to me wanting to explore it more. But really what happened so to kind of touch on the story I had, I have a Quran. I don't know where I got it from either, but I had this Quran And I remember it was one summer I came home from college. I'm like, I'm about to get my life all the way together. I'm going all in. And I remember I got my Quran. I'm trying to pray 5 times a day. And I don't even know if I read it. I think I don't think I was able to get past the first chapter, but I was trying to practice it. All right. But never read it then. But had it. We just walk around with it. Like, assalamu alaikum, brother. You know?
Lord have mercy. Okay.
And my mom found it, and she was so like.
Oh, I know my good sis.
She was mad.
Oh, I know my good sis.
And I remember I went to go look for it one morning, and it was gone. And I remember like, where's my Quran at? And my mom was like, I threw it away or something like that. And I remember I got so mad. I remember I started crying, and I was just so hurt because I'm like, why would you do that? Like, why would you throw away my Quran? You know what I mean? And so I felt a way about it. And me and her kind of fell out. Well, I fell out with her, you know, after that. And then she felt really bad about it, and she ended up giving it back to me. And then I went back to college, and then, you know, back on my stuff. Now I will say though, Dr. Miles Monroe played a really big part in me helping me understand Christianity.
Yeah.
And also understanding my identity within Christianity that allowed me to still be myself, and I wouldn't have to change who I am. Oh, how can I explain it? I don't have to change my culture.
Yeah.
Or
you don't become less black because you accept Jesus.
Yeah.
It's all of you, but he will refine the parts of you that don't align with his perfect will.
And he also explained it in a way that made it a lot more palatable. Like, it's not just church on Sunday, it's application. It's something to, it's a purpose.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I think it's interesting, even with like you feeling, so that's what sin does. It makes us feel almost like dirty in a sense. So you come back home after a year of sinning in college, just turning up, and you feel this just shame, this guilt. And you're like, I have to do something to reverse this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the part that could be so hard to comprehend about Christianity. It's like, there is grace that literally washes that dirt away, and the blood of Jesus washes that dirt away. But what he does is he genuinely gives you a new heart where you desire holiness, where you desire doing the right thing. Whereas I think you were stuck in a loop of works because you always felt the need to work to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
But then the next day you would sin, because we are inherently born into sin and shaped in iniquity. And then you'd go back into the loop of, I need to work. And I think that is why the gospel of Jesus is so profound, because he literally changes the desires of our heart and makes us want to be more like him, while simultaneously giving us the grace to cover the sin that we will do because we are human. So what did, opposed from just that summer of you coming back, were you still practicing Islam during college? Or
absolutely not.
So it was kind of like in and out situation.
Yeah, absolutely not. It wasn't able to sustain it. It was hard to kind of keep it up. After college, I graduated. I'm like, I'm moving out to LA. I want to be a rapper. Couple times. First time move out there, 2 weeks, zero plan whatsoever. Just like, I'm about to get out there, I'm about to make it. We about to be up, like it's over. Get out there, 2 weeks go by, I'm on somebody's couch. And actually my RA in college, so shout out to Matt for allowing me to stay on this couch, and Rob. They actually were really big filmmakers at the time, so that was also really dope. But still are, actually, they're still in that space. But anyway, stay with them 2 weeks, realize, okay, LA is huge. Yeah. Don't have any, this is hard.
Sing on a clip.
I don't know what was going on. So I ended up moving back home. And now I'm at home now. I'm not on a campus anymore. I'm isolated, working in a warehouse. And I'm sad because my family is now, my parents are separated and they're like on the decline, about to divorce. Our little dog I grew up with since I was in like 4th or 5th grade, blind and deaf. So my dog is dying. And I just feel very, 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 very alone. In that, whenever I'm really low or down, that's when I always felt like my faith was the strongest though.
Come on.
And so I would I was really down, and I didn't have anything else but the Bible to read. And so that's when I got into Dr. Miles Monroe. That's when I started like doing things like fasting and
so you kind of went back into Christianity around this time.
Yeah, because Dr. Miles Monroe helped me understand it where my place in it was, and how I could practice it and actually make a difference. I don't know, you know what I mean? Yeah, live it better, I guess. Why? Like why should we live the right way? If we can be forgiven anyway, then why? And I felt like Dr. Miles Monroe in his books helped me understand the why behind it. There's a purpose for my life. God saved us through his blood for us to do something, though. Not just to just be saved, just to say that I'm saved. I have to do, what am I supposed to do? And I think my whole life, the theme has always been that, though. Even with our marriage and stuff. What did God bring us together for? Be fruitful. Like what are we supposed to do? It's not just so we can just be married and just chilling and stuff.
How does he get the glory?
Yeah, God wants to do something through us. And so everything isn't with intention. And so I was always looking for intentionality. So find that, and now I'm starting to understand, okay, still a baby in it though, but I'm starting to get it a little
Drinking
bit.
Some milk.
Yeah.
So,
but then I end up back in Islam.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
If I remember correctly,
yeah.
We met, and this was 2021.
Yep.
You were doing Ramadan, literally the month we met,
and that was probably when I was like really, really, really like, all right, I'm for sure like
this is when you were in, because that's what I was You presented as like I am practicing Islam, like I'm a Muslim, and I think it is honestly so insane. I don't know what it was, how I just knew in my heart, I was just like, if it was any other person, because I was firm in my beliefs. I believe, in Jesus, like I'm a Christian. I didn't totally understand what that meant yet, but I know I had a radical encounter with Jesus, and I'm like, no, this is it. So I have no idea why. I was just like, okay. And I just trusted, because I saw your heart for God.
Yeah.
Beyond everything, like you were devout. You were still reading the Bible. That's why I think it was, I forget what that word is, when people kind of like pick from different because you were reading the Quran, but then you had the Bible, and it was a couple of things happening.
It was based off of my understanding of what I thought Islam was until I actually read it for myself. And this is where it comes down to like, okay, you have to read it though.
Okay.
And I think this is also like, even when you were like, were you reading your Bible? And I'm like, yeah, I was reading it a little bit. I was dabbling in it, but I think you have to read it to know for real. And I think I didn't want to know before. Now I want to know. So now I'm at the point where like, okay, I actually want to know, Jesus, are you God? Prior to that, I knew you were, but if I acknowledge that, then that means I have to change my life. And I'm not ready to make any changes in my life.
That's real.
So I don't want to know yet. You know what I'm saying? So I think I spend a lot of my life in ignorance is bliss. Like I just in willful ignorance. Because it's like the more I know, the more that I have to actually apply it, and I don't want to. So I'm not going to actually go all in yet until I'm ready.
That's real. I love how real you're being.
So now, right? So before I meet you, we have to go back another chapter. Before I moved back out to LA. All right. Now I'm in my Miles Monroe, and I'm finally starting to understand some things. I want to go out to LA because I want to do something with my life. And I had a lot of zeal. Still do.
Zeal.
But God had to tailor it. Yeah. Okay, we could say that.
He's like, that's
like, yeah, you idiot. Like, you were dumb.
No, I said,
but you were ambitious.
No wisdom, because you could have knowledge and still have no wisdom.
Yeah.
So if you ain't got Holy Spirit wisdom, you just out there.
Yeah. So right, for sure. And so I go out there, and and now, I'm back. It's like college on steroids.
Lord have mercy.
It's Hollywood now. You're in LA. So now it's just like, it's way too much, right? And now I'm like, I came out here for a purpose. There's no time to read my Bible. There's no time to pray. It's people in my face all day. And you feel this pressure and this pull to have to be on every scene possible because you don't know where your next big break is, and you can meet this person and they can change your life type of thing. So any invite you get, you go because you might not get another one. Any party you can possibly get to, you don't know who's there, and that could be the one that. So if you don't go and you decide I want to stay in the house and read, why are you out here? Because it's way too expensive for you to just be in the house reading. So you need to be trying to get it constantly.
This is deep. I feel like this is a therapy session.
Low key, and you look like a therapist.
Because I am certified on BetterHelp. Amen. My grace, 10% off. Anyways, basketball was the guide. Mm-hmm. Music was the guide. Mm-hmm. LA is now the guide. So the culture and whatever thing you were in is how you are acting, and it is your guide for life. Like when you didn't have God, truly a relationship with God. Mm-hmm. That's why I think he is our firm foundation, and he dictates the way we live our life and all of the things. Yeah. And without that, it was whatever season you were in, that's kind of how you live. So now LA is the thing that's guiding you.
Yeah. Yeah. And in hindsight too, you know, again, my dog just died. My parents just divorced. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go back home because it's too painful for me to be there, and I don't really have anywhere else to go. So at this point now, I'm in LA and I'm a mom now. Me and my mom relationship is really bad right now because of how the marriage went down. My dad's headspace, he's in a different place right now. So I don't really have him to really lean on right now because he's grieving, you know, the loss of his marriage. So yeah, so I'm isolated, and I think that's a big thing too for a lot of young people in Hollywood. These are a lot of people who are not even. I mean, people. Hollywood is full of broken people who are trying to get away from something and trying to make a better way for themselves and stuff. And so you get around you get desperate, and you just, or whoever is willing to take me in, I'm willing to be there. And the next thing you know, you look up and you on a Diddy documentary.
Lord have mercy.
So it's, you know, so it's scary, but God kept me though, you know, and it doesn't work out in LA, and I have to leave. I have a wedding. No, that's what happens. My uncle is getting married, and so it was already, things were getting really chaotic, and I just felt like already, but I didn't have any reason to go home. But now my uncle's getting married. I haven't seen nobody in a minute because I've been in LA. So I fly home for a wedding. Mm-hmm. Now I'm around family. I haven't been around family in a minute.
And they ground you.
And, you know, and the love is there, and I still feel it, you know, and it kind of helps me remember who I am and where I come from, you know what I mean? And that I'm not alone. I have family, you know? And so I come back home, and I'm like, and I think from there I end up moving in with my mom. And it just so happened that the situation I had out in LA fell through while I was home with my mom, where it wasn't a place for me to go back to. So now I'm home now, and I'm still depressed because, you know, before I was home and it was both my parents. Mm-hmm. Now it's my mom.
Are you going back to, you know, after craziness in LA, coming back home, finally feeling grounded? Are you now going back into Islam? Where are we at with that?
Yeah. So I'm home now. Yeah. That's actually.
Was that a period of kind of just figuring it out?
So now I'm at a point where, all right, yeah, I am trying to get my life together. And now I'm still trying to find identity. Mm-hmm. I'm reading my Bible, but I'm not really going to church.
Have mercy.
And I'm still isolated because now I don't even really want anybody to know that I'm even home, really. You know, I had sold everything before I moved out to LA. So I'm kind of stuck, and I'm just home. And I think I felt so bad about my lifestyle up until that point. Not just LA, but even before that. That it's like the prodigal son parable. When the son comes home and he's like, listen, I will go eat with the pigs in the barn just to be close to you. So I think coming home, in my next chapter into Islam, I think it was a bit of shame. I'm not, if I accept Christ as Lord, the Bible says that I become a son, but I didn't live and my life didn't reflect that of a son. So if I need to pray and put my face into the ground 5 times a day,
Jesus,
and not eat pork and just completely just shut my life down just to even just be close to you, then I'll go do that. I'm not a son because I didn't make you proud at all with my life. And so that's how I felt. I felt like that's where I should be. I should be over here, and it wasn't until so I'm doing that, and I'm doing Ramadan, I'm fasting, and
are you feeling God in this? Are you feeling peace? Are you feeling like this is what you're supposed to do? Or are you feeling like something's still missing?
I think the practice of fasting and praying definitely helped me at that time. What I didn't feel was any personal relationship with God. He was just an entity that was way bigger than me, and my whole life is just supposed to be in worship, and not like worship with like how we're doing it through business and through our platforms and just how we live, but more so worship literally
like
face the ground.
Face the ground.
Yeah, and just do that. And I think that's really where my life was where, that's what it felt like and it equated to. And this kind of goes into like the next part that I want to get into was what I discovered in Islam, because I think this is the part in the meat of this podcast that I want God to be able to use in order to touch the hearts of whoever's on the other side of the camera, who is also in a contemplative season of their life, trying to figure out what's true and what's not. Jesus had always been very real to me, and I always had a lot of questions because Jesus was embedded into my heart, and because I felt like I knew. It was never a question of, is God real? I always knew God was real.
Yeah.
But who is God though? And that was where that's where my journey started for getting here. Was really figuring out, who is God? Who is he? Is he Allah? Is he Jesus? Who is he? So I'm asking these questions, and the Muslims around me, they can't answer them, or they're not even allowed to even ask in the first place, right? But it's like, okay, why can't I ask that question? I just want to know this, right? But they couldn't answer it, and there were certain answers that they were accepting that it's like, I can't accept that in good conscience because that doesn't make sense to me. And so now I'm in the search. Now I'm like, all right.
Some of those, do you remember what any of those questions
were? Yeah, absolutely. Jesus. So when I would ask about Jesus, and I would say, okay, so Jesus, God doesn't have any children. He doesn't have a son. But
he is according to the Quran.
Right, according to the Quran, God doesn't have children. Okay. So then who is Jesus? Well, Jesus is the Messiah, but he was just a prophet. So you're telling me two different things that don't really line up, because if he's just what does Messiah mean there?
Anointed one.
Right. So wouldn't all prophets be anointed ones? Right. Why is he the only one with that title, the Messiah? What is that? Well, it's just is. And then they just kind of trail off, and there's no answer.
So there was like, even in the Quran, something was different about Jesus, and no one was explaining that.
Exactly. To me, it was like Islam would have probably kept me longer. I mean, I still feel like God would have put me out, but it could have at least took my curiosity for Jesus away had you just not mentioned him at all.
But he's there.
And just made me believe that he was just a made up character that only exists in Christianity, right? Because the Jews don't even really acknowledge Jesus as like special either. So if you would have just not acknowledged him at all, then I would have been like, okay, well, they all just had to have their own thing. But the fact that you're fundamentally opposed to Christianity, really the Catholic Church, but Christianity, you're fundamentally opposed to Christianity, yet you acknowledge that Jesus is the Messiah, that he was born from a virgin, meaning he has no earth father. So then he's not just a human being, He's definitely very different. And then my question is, okay, if God was like, I need to make this person, so boom, be, and he is, why? What is his purpose on earth then? You know what I'm saying? And why are we not like leaning in on that? Like, that made me lean in more. Like, who is this person that doesn't have an earth dad? The Quran says that he's a spirit from Allah, or spirit from God, according to them, right? So he's a spirit. So I'm also seeing things that line up with things in the Bible. Because we also believe that he's the Messiah. We also believe that Father, Son, and the Spirit are one in essence, right? We also believe that he was born from a virgin. All of these things. So to me, it's like, okay, that lines up. But then you're telling me, but he's just a prophet. In the Quran, he comes back. He's the only one that comes back. And even though they don't acknowledge that he died on the cross, they acknowledge that God
took him back.
So God cared about this person so much that he didn't even let anything happen to him, but something happened to everybody else but this person that God created. Takes him to heaven, and then he also gets the return. So he's over 2,000 years old. No human being is just like that. That's not normal. So
what answers or feedback are you getting from Muslims when you're asking them like these specific questions, specifically Jesus?
I'm not really getting any real answers, really. You know what I mean? And I don't think that a lot of them are sort of like allowed to even ask some of this stuff, because it kind of makes you afraid to do that. Oh, okay, so you doubt, so spend time in hellfire. That's kind of my experience with it. It's like, any question, if I doubt anything at all, then I could potentially, like, I'm thrown to hell. That's not love. It's I tolerate you until you question me, and now I don't want to deal with you anymore. So it's conditional, right? But the Bible and Christianity teaches us that God loves us unconditionally. Theirs is very conditional. Allah tolerates you unless this, right? So a lot of these things were and then just Muhammad, for me, I don't have a relationship with him. I don't know who that is. So it's hard for me to now just like make myself or pretend. It's not sustainable for me to act like we're close and that I feel like he would come guard me from a bullet if he was still here, because we don't have a relationship. You know what I mean? Whereas with Jesus, it was different. Also, I feel like God also played a little, had a little humor with it too, because my name is Christian. And I have Jesus on my arm, so I'm introducing myself as a Muslim
named Christian. With Jesus.
with a tattoo. Yeah, with a tattoo on my arm. I remember I spent Ramadan with this family. And I remember introducing myself to the guy's father, and I remember he kind of like smirked at me, and it was just like, okay, you know what I mean? It was weird. So yeah, I just felt like there was just these fundamental, they were the way that he's described in the context around him, and then what you're interpreting that to mean, it would be like me, and because also the Quran is written in a language that is a form of Arabic that apparently there is no actual translation for, just interpretation of what those words mean or meant at the time.
Just more so word of mouth.
To me, that was also tricky, because now it's very subjective, because the person interpreting it is already chose a side, and they're already biased about what it would be like. It would be like somebody not knowing what you look like. And so someone describes you, and they're like, she's fair skinned with braids and white teeth and great eyebrows. Her eyebrows were done, and she has a freckle on her cheek. And then I'm trying to describe that to a blind person that's never met you before. But because certain words don't have a translation for it, and also I'm married to you, so I'm already biased because I'm already in love with you, right? Instead of reading the description of you, oh, well, she's fair skinned, I'm just like, oh, she's the most beautiful girl in the world. There's no one like her. She dresses the best of all people. She was the best dressed and the most beautiful woman in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not what that said. That described you objectively. I just gave my subjective interpretation of what that meant from an already biased point of view, because I'm already in love with you. And I'm telling this person that's never seen you before that you're the more, and then that person takes it and runs with it. And now that's who you are. That's how I felt when I read the Quran. It's like, you guys are, that's not what that says. You know what I'm saying? You guys are taking that and then now you're making it a fact by building this narrative around this thing when that's not really the case at all.
I think it is very interesting that Jesus is in the Quran, and like anything, 90% truth, but 10% lie is still a lie. And you're right. I think there are disciplines that I admire. I was even talking about modesty in Islam. I admire that from the women. But at the end of the day, the missing piece here, and the piece that makes or breaks, is Jesus. So for you, after all of this searching, what made Jesus different? Where you were like, Jesus is the way, he's the truth, I want to follow him. What did that look like?
So I would pray. I remember I led prayer with a couple of my Muslim, with my cousin. And, in the prayer, you say that it's like the same prayer, right? But I'm like, all right, well, y'all told me Allah and God are the same person. The God of the Bible and Allah are the same God. The Quran is just basically the course-corrected version of what Christianity should have been if the Catholic Church hadn't got it and twisted it. That's basically what Islam is what I thought, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, then this is the same person. So in the name of Allah, the most da-da-da, but I'll be like, in the name of Allah, Jesus, Yahweh, and I would name all Jehovah Jireh, da-da-da. Like, I'm naming all his names, right?
Mercy.
And I remember they stopped me like, whoa, what are you doing?
Because if Jesus ain't welcome, I'm leaving.
And I'm like, well, I'm just naming God, but I'm naming like all his names though. Well, no, Allah is sufficient. Like, you don't have to name all that because it all is encompassing there. I'm like, sure, but it shouldn't matter if it's the same person. I want to make sure that my prayer is going to who I want it to go to. So I'm going to name all of his names, and that's the case. And so little things like that would throw me off, because I'm like, why can't I don't understand.
And correct me if I'm wrong. They believe what we believe is polytheism, right? Like the belief in
pagan. They think that. Right. They think that they just don't understand the Godhead being three.
So, right, which is in their religion, shirk?
It's committing shirk.
Shirk. I think it's shirk. So have you ever tried to, like, did you understand the Trinity at that point where when you're presenting questions, you're like, no, Jesus is part of, he's the second person of the Godhead. It's not three separate gods that we're worshiping here. Like, was that ever a conversation?
I think that starts to come into play as I matured more in my faith.
Okay.
I think it was irrelevant. It was irrelevant at the time because, again, right now, I just need to know that Jesus is Lord.
Right.
Before we get into the theology and the technicalities of it, I just need to know that Jesus is somebody, is a safe space for me.
When did you come to that realization?
To pray to. So it was always there, you know what I'm saying? Again, because the questions couldn't be answered, I remember just kind of really just struggling with who they said that Jesus was and who I believed him to be. We meet, and we're talking, and you didn't judge me, when I was telling you I was, searching, but I'm Muslim. At the time, my mom, too, again, this is now my second time kind of going in there. She's not panicking either. And she will tell you the story that she just had this peace over her the second time I went into it, that it wasn't sustainable or something, or like God told her, don't worry, or something like that. So
mercy, Jesus.
So I'm in it. And I also believe that now, God used that experience because he does want me to be able to, we overcome through the blood of Christ and then the word of our testimony, right? And so I believe that God is using my testimony now and is going to use it in order to reach more people. But so we meet, and fall in love with you quick, right?
Day 4.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Let's just use 3 to keep it all together. We'll say 3 days in. But we meet, and I was very inspired by also your walk.
That's encouraging.
And so we're having, we're waking up at 5 a.m. doing our Bible studies, right? I'm trying to line up the Quran with the Bible. I'm trying to make it fit. So you would read your passage, and then I would have both out, and then I would go and I would read my part in the Quran, and I would want them to line up so bad, and it would just be something that was just like completely opposite of what you were reading in yours from what I was reading in my Quran. So that was another part that was like, this is also something is off. I remember, again, we talked about it on the last podcast, but I would see you and you were always alone. And I was worried about you. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, she needs community. So a guy I met in LA named Kenneth Clark, shout out to Kenneth Clark. Mm-hmm. He was another artist out there. And he was somebody that we would have conversations, and he's a Christian artist too. But me and him just gravitated to each other in LA. I think probably because we were also like normal people. No offense. Let me stop saying that. Me and him, though, I think we both were at very similar stages of our.
So you just related.
Yeah, of our sanctification, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yo, what church? Because he moved to Atlanta, he got married and everything. Mm-hmm. So he was in Atlanta. And I'm like, okay, Atlanta, yeah, my girlfriend is down there. What church do you go to? And that's when he pointed me to the church that we know, to City Taker.
So crazy, because that's the first and last church we went to.
Yeah, and
like not first and last. Like that was the first church we went to.
That was our church, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool, because this girl that I'm seeing is in Atlanta. I want her to find some community. I think that'd be a good church for her to go to. So I remember I sent you the Instagram.
Yep.
And then that's when you started going. You started volunteering and doing stuff there or whatever. So I came down to visit. And we were going to go because I wanted to check it out too. But again, I'm still a Muslim at the time.
Right.
So I'm in there and I'm like, this is for you. I'm just here to support.
But the blood.
But I went in there and Pastor Scott didn't judge me. He ain't even it just felt he was mad cool. You know what I mean? And somebody gave a testimony.
Yep. I remember Megan. Yep.
She gave her testimony, and her testimony was so... it moved me, and then it's like something just came off my eyes.
Jesus!
And I remember I'm just looking around and I'm just seeing all these different faces, black, white, young, old, like all these people, and I feel something. I'm like, yo, I haven't felt this at no mosque.
Glory!
We just been going through the motions, but this is real, and the Holy Spirit is real. I'm actually having a real experience. That was all I needed. So from that point forward, that's when I was like, yeah, I'm ready to denounce, Islam and really, really get back, to learning about who Christ is for me.
And how long from that moment did you get baptized? How long? I think it was 2 years, right?
A couple years, yeah.
And I was there.
2 years.
I baptized you.
Yeah.
In the water.
I baptized you.
And you baptized me.
Yeah.
And I was pregnant with Jenna.
Yeah.
And then I baptized you with Pastor Scott in the lake.
Yeah.
In you've been living for the Lord ever since. That makes me so, and you know what? It's a true and real story, because you do either see like for my testimony, for example, I had a radical encounter with the Lord. I was like, I'm never going back. But your story was long, and it took trial and error, and it was ups and downs, and it was realness, and it was you crying out to God. It was you asking him. It was you being real. Like, God, you know what? I actually don't want to be saved right now. There was authenticity within your journey. But to finally get to, because everyone respects someone who's trying to find the truth. But once you finally get to the truth, they say, oh, no, now he think he better than. But you have found the truth. You did go to Indonesia last year in June on a missionary trip.
Yeah.
With the focus of evangelizing
to Muslims.
Yeah. So that is a full circle moment. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
First off, God is great. And I think that's also a testament to how God can use every bit of your testimony, for his glory, right? Because had I not explored Islam and had these questions and and then, studied and really tried to understand, all of that stuff, I don't think I would have been equipped to be as effective as I was when we went to Indonesia. I got invited to go to Indonesia by my brother, John, Mike, Josh, the homies, down in Atlanta, and they go every year. Indonesia is on the complete opposite side of the world, literally 12 hours away. Me and you were calling. It'll be 1 a.m. there, 1 p.m. your way. So even our communication was just like, it was tough. But I was out there, and, they're like 90%. It's a Muslim country. And so, but I was excited because I'm like, yo, I'm excited to be used and for this not to be a waste, but like that experience that I had, I can use that,
Yeah.
And it really came into play because when we got out there, I was, I don't want to be arrogant and say I was the most effective.
Right.
But I do feel like I was uniquely qualified to be in that space. Right. And so, I remember we get there and, one moment in particular that I really feel like God used it. So the last day we're there, Josh has this game he plays. He said, I've been praying on this, and I'm going to split you guys into teams. The team that you're on is the team that God told me you're supposed to be on. And it was basically like Amazing Race. So if anybody's ever seen Amazing Race, basically you have these teams of people who are out trying to do all these bucket list activities, and they have to do all of them and then make it back to the studio to win the prize or whatever. And so our checklist was, buy a stranger coffee, give somebody a hug 1 point, silly stuff like that. But then like take a picture with a 30-year-old Muslim woman, 1 point. But then like bigger stuff, like pray for somebody, 2 points. Pray with somebody, like 5 points.
And can you just tell us why that's so significant?
It's a Muslim country, so technically it's like solicitation. So you can't. I'm not gonna say it's dangerous to do it, but it's definitely, you got to be careful, where you do that at, right? And so especially because you're praying, even when we would go to restaurants, when we would pray, let's bless our food. We had to bless our food. We would hold hands and be looking at each other, eyes wide open, act like we having a conversation.
Wow.
But we're like literally praying. But if we like would have been doing this, it would have drawn too much attention, So, you have that. But these things, share the gospel was like 10 points. So I'm like, okay, boom. So we got, and whatever team, knocks out their checklist and makes it back to the church that we met at wins. So he splits us up into teams. My team is like me, a 8-year-old little boy named Asa. That's my G though. Asa, and then our translator. And so, we're going on. I'm like, man, everybody else got like adults on their team and stuff. It's me and Asa was like my right hand, you know what I mean? And then our translator. So we're out there, and Jen, I'm sorry. And it was a woman named Jen that was in our group too, but she had just got there like the day before. So she was still trying to warm up to what was going on around us too, right? So naturally, I'm like, all right, I'm the leader. You know what I mean? In my brain, I might not say that out loud, but in my brain, I'm like, okay, I'm the leader. So we get there, and we're going out and we're doing our activities, trying new food, 1 point, whatever, knocking out our checklist. And everybody was kind of like hesitating and like procrastinating on the whole share the gospel one, because that's the one that's like, that's the riskiest one, you know what I mean? And so we were like, all right, we're going to do that one last. Let's go ahead and knock out the easy stuff, buying the coffees, praying with people, that type of stuff. And it was dope because it put me in a mindset of just being intentional with every interaction that I had, which is something that I really wish I would have brought back to the States with me, because it's so easy for us to just walk by people and not even do anything, but like we should be praying for people and sharing our testimony with people randomly, because you don't know who needs to hear that at the time. But we're so used to it in America of just, well, you probably already heard the gospel, so I don't need to share with you. There's nothing exciting about it. Over there, it's people who've never heard it. So when they hear the gospel, you don't know. That might be like, what? Like, we can be God's kids?
Right.
Like, what? All I have to do is believe in, and he did what?
Right.
Like, they get excited about it, and it's like a rush. And it's like, man, I can tell that same story to somebody here, and they're like, yeah, duh, I know that, bro. You know what I mean? And still go to the club. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So it's just, it was different. And so, we're going on, we're doing our thing. Finally, we're coming out of this museum. We had just finished up our checklist. Last thing is share the gospel. And I'm like, man, all right, like, this is the hardest one. And I remember I'm walking out, and it's this really busy intersection. And it just hits me. Holy Spirit's like, I want you to share your testimony here. And I'm like, wait, hold on. I'm looking around. I'm like, man, all these people, like, who am I supposed to share my testimony with? You know what I mean? So my heart beating fast. I'm like, dang, you know what I mean? I don't want to do this right here. I kind of wanted to do it in a quiet little corner with somebody really nice. Like, I don't know who these people are. But one of the things on our checklist was buy a homeless person food. So I'm like, all right, well, let me do that one first. There's this limp person. They like walking with a stick and blind in one eye, and they walking down the street or whatever. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy that person food. So I'm trying to get their attention, but they don't speak any English. And so this guy that's riding these, like, they're basically like these trolleys that can take you around. He sees me trying to get this guy's attention. And so he stops and he goes and he tells the dude, like, the dude's trying to get you. And I'm like, eat. So he's like, so I tell the translator, like, I give her the money and I'm like, hey, can you go buy him food? And it was like this lady at this little cart, like probably like 20 yards away or whatever, making these noodle bowls. And so she goes and pays the lady at the noodle bowl. And the guy who was on the trolley spoke a little English. So he tells the guy, hey, go, he's about to feed you. So the guy goes down to the food cart. Right then and there, I see another guy that looked just like him, blind in the other eye. No, the guy on the trolley was like, can you feed his brother too? And I'm like, and I look up and the dude looked just like him, blind in the other eye, walking down the street. So I'm like, yeah, for sure. I tell Erin, the translator, 2 bowls or whatever. So she goes and she pays the lady. Well, now this dude on the trolley is looking at me like, who's this dude just buying people food and stuff? And I look different. Ain't got no black people over there like that. So, he looking at me. So he stops his cart, parks it, and he beelines for the area where the 2 are sitting at waiting on these bowls. And then that's when the Spirit hits me. I was like, this is why I want you to share your testimony. So I'm like, oh man. I'm like, well, at least if I share with the homeless dude, he ain't gonna stone me or nothing because I just bought him some food. So at least he gonna be happy. So I'm gonna go share it with him. So I start going over there. Well, the dude on the trolley starts getting other people's attention or whatever, and he goes and he parks over there. So I go and I go sit on this rock. Sit on this rock. It's actually kind of dope. But I sit on this rock. And
this also real disciple stuff.
It was dope, man. It was a great experience. So I sit on this rock and I'm about to talk to the homeless dudes, but the dude on the trolley is the one that's like starts talking to me first. So he's like, where you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from America. He's like, oh, Obama? And I'm like, I mean, sure, Obama was like 2 presidents ago, but like, sure, Obama. So we're talking or whatever, and then he asked about Asa, and I'm like, oh, that's my brother. And he said, brother, and he points at his skin, like, y'all got 2 different, like, he white, he black, right? And I'm like, well, we got the same father. And he was like, so that kind of opened up conversation.
Segue.
Yeah, that then kind of stops, and he's like, are you Muslim? And I said, I used to be. And he goes, well, what made you stop? So now I'm like, okay, game on. Now it's time. I see what's happening right now. So I start telling him my testimony, and I'm using, and Aaron is translating to him. And he tries to put his cigarette out, and I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. None of us are perfect, only Jesus. But he died for us, right? So he's like, and because I used to be a Muslim, I'm using verbiage that they understand, right? So I'm like, Isa, El Masai, da da da. So I'm using a lot of their stuff, and then he's like, oh, okay, yeah, Isa, yeah. So he's asking, and he's like, you could tell he's like asking questions, like, okay, so I say, well, I was very curious. I used to be Muslim, but I looked into Isa, and there were a lot of things that made him different than all the other prophets. And he's like, well, like what? So I'm talking to Aaron. Aaron's translating, but I'm like, he dies, or no, that he comes back. He comes back, and he's the only one that didn't die. And I said, and did you know that Jesus created life, or he can create life like God? So he's like, what do you mean? So in the Quran, there's a part where Jesus is a kid, and he makes a bird out of clay, breathes into it, and then the bird flies. Well, only God can create life, right? So even in the Quran, there's little Easter eggs like that sprinkled throughout, where it's like you have to lean into that. It's almost like it's a clue.
That's what I'm saying.
But go figure out what that is. And the Bible is like the codex to me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, what's the Messiah? Well, I don't know. Because you don't read the Bible. The Bible is going to tell you what the Messiah is and what that means and stuff. So you need to go read the Bible to even know and hold it up against that and see what's true and what's not. It's like two truths and a lie. That's how I feel.
That's what yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I'm saying all this thing. Well, as I'm talking to him, a crowd is now forming around us.
Wow.
So next thing I know, I look up and it's like 15, maybe 20 people. Even the lady cooking the noodles and stopped, and now she's like over there, but she got this huge, I thought she was gonna be mad and be like, get away from my truck. But she got this huge smile on her face, so she's listening.
Giving a good news.
And I'm sitting on this rock and I'm just talking to all these people. And
Muslims.
And one guy is like super excited to hear all this stuff. So he's like super leaning and he hitting people like da da da. You know what I mean? Like, you hear that? It's that Jesus made a bird. Like, so it was an amazing thing.
Wow.
But then let me show you the enemy though. This is how the enemy gets and kind of severed communication. As I'm talking, I'm noticing that there's a delay from the time I'm like saying a word and then the translator delivering it to the guy. And I'm noticing that he's getting distracted because he's starting to like look away because he's like waiting on an answer, and she's like talking to somebody. So I look over and I'm like, yo, you got to lock in. Like, we in the middle of something right now. But it's a guy that's like, I don't know if he's trying to get her number or what, but he's like pulling out his phone, pulling up his YouTube, and just
distracted,
just doing stuff, right? So she's trying to shoo him away, like, get away from me right now. I'm trying to like focus, but he's just in her ear and it's just like adamant, you know what I'm saying? Adamantly just distracting her, trying to pull stuff up. So after a while, I'm noticing like, all right, this is because now the crowd's starting to disperse. The dude he's like starting to, he's getting impatient now. He realized I'm on the clock, you know what I mean? And I got to go. And now I'm looking away and it's taking too long to get these answers and stuff. So I realized it's over. The moment was over. So I'm like, hey, before everybody leaves, can we pray? And I pray in the name of Jesus right there on the corner that a seed was planted, on their hearts, and that they come to Christ. But right there, I mean, the experience was amazing, you know what I mean? And so in the end, I feel like in my experience of Islam, I think all of it, kind of culminated to me just having a better understanding, but also having a compassion and
that is the heart
empathy
of it.
Because I see a lot of people online doing apologetics, and there's this gang wars sort of
Christian
thing
versus Muslims.
Yeah, and they like promoting them like UFC fights. Yeah, even with the thumbnails, the head with the head verse so and so, and it's like it's almost like, is this actually supposed to help people, or is it just entertainment and subscribers?
Are we worried about people's hearts?
And so for me, I think because of people that I care about are in the Muslim community, and because I was, I explored it at one point too, my posture towards it is more dialogue and genuinely trying to get you to understand and see Jesus in your faith to help bring you to ours, so.
The truth.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting us in on that. And I know that it's going to actually help a lot of people. Like, even in that moment of you giving that testimony in Indonesia and there were distractions, you still don't know what seed was planted in those people's lives. And that could have been the only time that they've ever heard Jesus.
So last part of that though, I forgot. So it's all over. We have to get to the next location. The guy and the other guy that was super excited was like, "Garrett, get in my trolley. Like, ride with me. We'll take you anywhere." Right. So now they like are my best friends, but it's like a group of us. So we have to take 2 trolleys. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to ride with you because you're the one that, even though you didn't mean to, you helped orchestrate this whole thing. So I'm riding with you. And then you're him over there, you know, Aaron, the translator, and Jen, you guys ride with them. So they take us, they gave us a certain budget that we could like spend, but we also, you know, I took my own money, obviously. So, I tipped the guy. I'm like, you know, we're talking on the way there, asking about kids. You know, you have any kids? He's telling me he got like a whole family at the house. I'm like, yeah, I got 2, whatever. So we get to where we're going, and I tip him what would be equivalent to like somebody giving you $100 as a tip, right? So I give him that, and I'm like, this is for your family. He's like, wow, man, thank you. And then I go and I give 100 to the other driver. I'm like, this is for your family. And he was like, oh man, thank you. And I'm saying, yo, but remember though, Jesus, remember, look and lean into Jesus. He was like, yes, Jesus. So yeah, I do hope that seed was planted, you know what I mean, for sure, in his life. And even if this podcast somehow even gets to him and we put some translation captions on it or something, you know what I mean? But, you know.
Such a beautiful, real, raw, honest story. And I'm so glad that I got to watch some of it. I mean, I got to watch a couple of years of it play out. So I'm proud of who you've become. You are a man of God, a man after God's own heart. And I think it took you going through this journey to get to where you're at now. But I think it's beautiful to know that this isn't always who you've been. It's like I said, it's taken trial and error. It's taken searching. But for you to arrive at the truth, it is so just amazing to see played out and lived out. You live out your faith. You are not just a Sunday saint. You do it Monday through Sunday. You're living it out. You're devoted to the scriptures. You're devoted to prayer. You're devoted to worship. And I commend you for that.
Thanks, boo.
So, we wrapping up?
We're wrapping up for sure.
If you guys enjoyed this video and you want more content like this, make sure to leave a thumbs up. Turn on our bell notification. We are posting every Monday. We're trying to get into a consistent rhythm for you guys. And make sure to hit our subscribe button so more content like this can come your way. We're so grateful for all of you guys, and we will see you next episode. Bye.
But it's time that